My goal in life is to be able to be on my deathbed, be somewhat conscious, and right as I'm taking my last breath, that I chuckle, that I'm able to look back on all this.
There's not as much time to just like hang out and do shit because you're already spoken for.
A lot of these self-help books that I read, say, hey, look, there's a problem, find the solution, live in the solution. And I go, what the fuck? What about all the stuff that happens in between?
Here we are.
Dude, here we are. Oh my God. I feel like you create these relationships, which I'm super bad at because I just had a little freak out this morning and then I had to read the Daily Dad in order to calm the fuck down. But, there's no time. When you have kids, how old are your kids?
8 and 5.
Okay, so 8 and 5. So my little ones are 6 and 3, and there's just no time to do anything.
Yeah, I know.
And if you're a parent who actually enjoys being a parent and likes being a parent and lives this idea that he can be present all the time, it really fucks with the rest of your life.
No, there's not as much time to just like hang out and do shit because you're already spoken for.
You're literally already spoken for in these things that, like, there was the Golden Globe nominations and I'm getting all these texts this morning, and Zoe and Timothy and Sebastian Stan, my buddy, and Zoe Saldana and all that. And I'm like, wow, that's so great. I haven't seen shit. Because when the kids finally go to sleep, if we don't pass out with them, which we normally do, my wife and I say, okay, this is our time. We get to actually do something together. And we sit on the couch and we turn on a movie and we go to sleep within 10 or 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And we wake up at 1:30 in the morning on the couch, totally discombobulated, not sure what to do. Anyway.
No, it's very humbling. I was thinking about that the other night. I was in my son's room putting him to bed, and I got an email about I did this book for this guy George Raveling, who's like one of my heroes. And anyways, I'm sitting there, I'm sitting there putting my son to bed, and I get an email that Michael Jordan agreed to write the foreword to this book, and then my son's like, I have to go to the bathroom. Like it just like the contrast of like struggling to put this 8-year-old to bed and this like huge career win. There's something about it that I think keeps you sane. I don't know if this was all I did, if work was all I did, I'm not sure I could. I think you'd lose your mind. There's something good about it.
There's nothing good about it. It's a calibration again and again and again into this laceration of ego. And it's what is it, the 9th today?
Yes.
Literally, I opened it up. I came in here, and instead of figuring out how to do this Zoom with you, I read this, and it has to do. It's November 9th. Wait,
December 9th.
Right, which is something that I talk about often. About being on your deathbed. Parents think about a lot of things. I won't read the whole thing, but they think about the world they're leaving to their sons and daughters. And the question for you to think about today, on a day hopefully quite far from that moment, is what decisions are you making now and how will you think about them then? So I often say, my goal in life is to be able to be on my deathbed, be somewhat conscious, and right as I'm taking my last breath, that I chuckle, that I'm able to look back on all this and to say, not only did I have fun, I had integrity, I played with the circus that is, and that I was malleable within it, and that I ended up having, like we're all the better for it.
So I'm actually writing about Elon Musk now a bunch in this book that I'm doing, as I find him fascinating and terrifying. And I found this line from his first wife, and she was saying, inside the man there's a small wounded boy standing in front of his father. and I was like, well, I mean, that explains a lot, right? Because his dad was a monster, is a monster, but that's also explains a lot of us, right? And I felt that sort of coming through in your story, that you were this kind of scared kid trying to figure it out, and that scared kid lived a long time. Like that scared kid made it maybe up through middle age.
And I remember when my dad said to me, and he meant it professionally. He said, "I remember when you went to war, and if you contrast my brother and I talk all the time, and we're close, and but the truth of the matter is, my brother lives the most simple life you can live. He couldn't simplify it more. He knows when he's going to go to work, walks there, then he goes to the coffee shop, then he goes to the sandwich shop after that, then he comes home, and then he watches whatever he watches. And then I think what my dad meant by that, of like, you fought, you were not going to be subservient to the trauma. You weren't going to
Yeah.
allow yourself to fold. And I think it's interesting that you bring up my dad, because I know that there's a lack of stories with my dad, and it's not meant to hurt. It's not meant to be. I think it's honestly laid out in a way of like, okay, so where were you? Were you there?
It's a statement in the book by omission, is how I read it.
Exactly. And it's not about like, we had this crazy mother that was so full of high octane gasoline for whatever reason, who had wild animals around, who, created this narrative that most people, I think all people, couldn't sustain. So even great friends of my mom would just say, "Pull the fucking car over. I'm out." And we'd be in the and there's a story that's true. Joyce, who got out of the car 50 miles from anything and was willing to walk, then sit for another minute with my mother in that car, which I understand, which anybody who knew her understood. The other side of it, she was so much fun. She was so adventurous. She just had this energy that she wanted to be in the nucleus of the circus all the time. But when you have somebody who's living in fear of that person, who's supposed to be the paternal force of that family, and you can't help but become the surrogate father. You are suddenly, the husband. And my dad, he talks about it. He doesn't, I'm not saying anything that he wouldn't say, but he says, "I remember your mom being in the driver's seat, you being in the passenger seat, you guys arguing, and he was in the back with his hands over his ears." So you go, it's not a great thing to say, but
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is that you took the child role, and I took the husband role, because there was something innate in me, and I see it in my youngest daughter, that was just willing to go outside when it's freezing cold with bare feet on, and just, she has that thing. I saw my youngest daughter Chapel, do that yesterday, and I was like, damn, that's innate in you. You can't create that. Whereas my 6-year-old is like, it's cold and I don't want to go outside, and I'm doing that. Where are my high heels? And I think that there's something about that father thing. And my dad's not a monster. He's one of the nicest guys. I just think that he was controlled by a fear that he was unwilling to confront.
But that it struck me that the work of the book and the journey of your story was to kind of reparent that inner child, to sort of calm things down, to develop a sort of a more stable and calm and nurturing environment, one that you didn't have growing up. But that is difficult work, and it's expensive work, it's painful work. And what I was struck by, as I've been studying Musk, is like, he just hasn't done that work at all. He's just like, more stuff, more craziness, more attention, more money, and then you can watch the sort of cyclical effects of that trauma. But what I read your book was, you had this sort of disorienting, overwhelming, confusing, traumatic childhood, and then that rippled out into your life, and you have slowly, steadily been trying to make sense of it. And I even felt like the structure of the book was illustrative of that, in that you're jumping around. You're like 1972, 2006. You're bound. The dates are all jumbled, but as you go through the book, as you get older, as your life starts to coalesce, it kind of jumps around less, and the threads start to come together, and you've kind of made sense of it.
Yeah, and Elon, there's also another element of Elon Musk is maybe motivated by that trauma, whatever that trauma
Yes,
is. So
sure.
you start to rely on that trauma being your fuel. Do you know
Yes.
what I mean? Trump, doesn't he
Hmm.
have the same thing? And that whole, a dad who just didn't accept him the way he was. Didn't W have the same thing, where the dad, it was supposed to be Jeb, and he was the golden child, and W was the misfit, and was the
Yes.
one that just wouldn't live up to a standard that they expected of him, and all that, which I don't have. That's a very different thing. So maybe that's why I'm more contemplative about it.
Yes.
But my dad wasn't somebody who, but he did do that. There was I tell a story. I try again. I don't want to throw my dad under the bus because I love my pop, but there. Whether it's a generational thing or not, I remember I went to my dad once and I said, "Hey man, I'd love to get a recorder because my mom died early and I wish I had done this with my mom." I wasn't suggesting that my dad was going to die anytime soon, which I didn't want to, convey. But I said, "I would love to get together with you and just like with a recorder and just talk to you and ask you stuff about you growing up in Newport and moving to Westwood, and what was it like? What was your dad like? What was your mom like? Did you spend any time with your grandparents?" Whatever it was. And he got really defensive. He was
Mm.
like, "For what?" I was like, and I wasn't writing the book at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I said, I just, because I want the information, because I love to know like how you think, and what made you do certain things. What was the car club like that you were involved? Shy. Why did you become an actor, being such a shy person? What was that confrontation like, and all that? And he was really, really reticent. Whereas if I asked my mom would have been forever, just
Sure.
forever. But again, it's a different mentality, and it's like, so did that motivate me to want to be more? And I'm sure it did. Want to be more intimate with my kids, to listen to my kids in a different way. So I can never look back on that and say, "Oh, I got fucked," because it created something. And not that I don't, and I said that to Howard Stern, not that I don't indict it. There's things that I do indict. There's
Sure.
things that I think are so narcissistically not okay, and it's like, is this about you, or is this about celebrating a child?
Yeah.
You couldn't help it but make it about you. But I think that a lot of what motivates me now, having 4 kids, is how do you celebrate those children, knowing that it's all going to be messy. It's
Yeah.
all super messy, and it's okay that it's messy. And a lot of these self-help books that I read, say, "Hey, look, there's a problem, find the solution, live in the solution." And I go, "What the fuck? What about all the stuff that happens in between? What
Yeah.
about all the messiness?" And I think bringing it back around to you, which is why I love all the stuff that you've written, truly all the stuff that you've written, is it reminds you again and again how messy all of this is, you know?
Yeah, there's this concept in Stoicism that I don't think is super popular, and I struggle with it, which is this idea of acceptance. Because people go, "Well, I didn't get where I am by accepting things." But when I think about my own childhood and my struggles with it, and why I still have anger about some things today, and where it causes me problems, is all the areas where I'm still stuck in a place where I'm like, it shouldn't have been that way. It's unfair that it's that way. Why did it go this way? Like when I'm stuck in, like, if I can get to a place where I'm like, it is what it is, it shouldn't have been this way, but it was. And now I have to deal with the reality of what it was. Then I'm moving forward. But the problem is when I'm still stuck in the unfairness, or in the wishing it was otherwiseness of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Last question for you. I'll let you go. But I was fascinated in your story, as of now that I have young kids, is you're on round two, right? So you had kids when you were very young, and I ask this question to people a lot. My friend Casey Neistat, the filmmaker, he had a kid like in high school, and then he has a kid now. His kids now. Um, the getting to do it again. What do you feel like you learned the first time you're doing better the second time, or how do you think about it, having this second phase of life, getting to try some of these things over? And it's not like you don't have your other kids. You're still a parent
Well, I
to
know that's what
round one.
it's what I always react to is that how do you feel you get to do it again? And again, it always it always makes me feel like
You're
my
still doing
older
it.
kids went somewhere.
Yeah,
It's I love the continuation of being a parent. I will have been a parent my entire adult life. I will have gotten out of high school, had about a year to myself, a year and a half to myself, and then I became a
wow.
parent. And then I will my youngest will graduate when I'm around 70. So I will have been a parent my, raising
Yeah,
kids. There was a little moment there where I kind of was off on my own doing my thing and my kids were adults, but not very long. And I've always been a present parent. I've always had this incredible relationship with my older kids. What's different is that I mean, think about a 20-year-old man. I mean, I was when Debbie was pregnant with Trevor, I was looking at prison time. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it was a different guy. And
yeah,
even though I think I've always been a very conscientious and good parent, I still had, which is basically what this book is about.
sure,
I had whatever chaotic vortex that I was living in, that's the nature nurture part. I was still
yeah,
contending with that and I was still unwilling to let it go, meaning I was unwilling to grow up because I thought growing up meant kind of some weighted down idea of having to live this monotone life. And I just wasn't willing to do that. And because I didn't know that living the way that I'm living now is so much more vivacious and vivid than anything I ever lived before, and
yeah,
it doesn't have the consequence of having to do jail time or whatever. But
yeah. It's healthier too.
and it's healthier too. But there's something that's always existed with my kids about their sense of newness and discovery and awe that I think that I treat like people go to church for that reason, or people go see Buddhists for that reason, or people meditate for 5 hours a day for that reason. I feel that that is my version of that. I get to be around these kids, and I'm not bullshitting when I say it. I've always felt that it is such a gift that I've been given to be able to be the parent of these four children.
I think that's the one of the best passages in the book. I have it here. You said, "There's nothing so pure as the young who are just beginning to awe at that investment of a breath and slowly, so painfully realizing how all the breaths of their passions hang in wait just out of touch. Into their maturity, solace will hide with only a yearning scent of milk left in the air. But there they are. It is there, your own sense of character to be cultivated."
That's not
I
that's
loved it.
that's written pretty well.
It's not bad, man. No, it's good. That the innocence, the sense of discovery, the excitement about things, the that yeah, that's what lights me up. That's the fucking best. That's why that makes the sleepless nights and the craziness and the yelling and the noise and the breaking of shit. It makes it all worth.
Which brings it all the way back to this, which is what I was saying, which is Daily Dad or Daily Stoic or all these fucking books that I have of yours. Literally, your books are everywhere. That remind me of that. It's like, look, you go through the insanity to
Yeah,
be able to be more present for the gift. And the gift is right there. You don't have to seek it. It's not out of your grasp. It's literally right there. I was thinking, oh, look at the opportunities that you're getting now that you're sober. I go, no, the opportunities were always there. I
yeah.
just I just wasn't available to them. And now I feel like I'm available to them. and you've magnified that. And I'm not, again, this is not, I've done a lot of interviews for this book, man. I've done it,
I've seen him.
and I appreciate you more than you probably will ever know.
Well, that means a ton to me. I hope we can do it in person sometime.
Me too.
But this was awesome. I love the book. Like, I got 2 copies with notes. I thought it was fantastic.
Thanks, man.
And yeah, I hope you do another one.
Me too. It's already happening, so we'll see.
Good.